You wake up, and before you've even had your first sip of coffee, your body is already losing a battle you didn't know was being fought. You feel a slight heaviness in your eyelids, a subtle dryness in your mouth, or perhaps a faint tingling in your fingertips that you've dismissed as just another sign of getting older. But these are not just the marks of time. They are the whispers of a system under siege. In my 45 years of clinical practice, I have watched thousands of patients walk into my office with blood sugar numbers that baffled them. They hadn't eaten for 12 hours, yet their glucose was climbing. This is the invisible sign, a silent alarm from your liver that most people ignore until it's far too late. We are taught that health is destroyed by grand tragedies, but in reality, it is stolen by decades of small, silent negligences. We see the retirement tragedy play out every day. Men and women who worked 40 years to build a nest egg, only to spend every penny of it trying to buy back the health they let slip away during their quiet mornings at the kitchen table. But what if I told you that there is a specific 10-minute window, a precise moment after you finish your breakfast, that determines the fate of your arteries for the next 24 hours? There's one specific habit, a rule of the first 30 minutes, that can transform your largest muscle groups into biological vacuums, sucking the sugar out of your bloodstream before it can begin the process of caramelizing your nerves. Hello, and welcome back to the Senior Health Doctor. In today's video, we will cover mastering your morning blood sugar levels with one simple 10-minute habit. Before we start, if you enjoy our content, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling me your age and which city or country you are watching from. To understand why your morning is the front line of this war, we must look at the mechanical error occurring inside you while the sun is still rising. As the dawn breaks, your brain signals your adrenal glands to release a surge of cortisol. This isn't a mistake. It's designed to wake you up. However, this cortisol triggers your liver to dump a massive load of stored glucose into your vessels to give you energy for the day. This is the dawn phenomenon. In a healthy system, your pancreas would meet this surge with a precise release of insulin. But as we age, the receptors on our cells become deaf to insulin's knock. The sugar has nowhere to go. It sits in your blood, thickening it, turning a fluid that should be as light as water into something more like a heavy syrup. This is where the cellular stress response begins. When sugar levels remain high in the early hours, your cells enter a state of metabolic panic. They are surrounded by fuel they cannot use. This leads to the production of advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. Think of these as microscopic shards of glass. This isn't just a metaphor on a molecular level. These sticky sugar molecules begin to attach themselves to the proteins that make up your tissue. They bind to the collagen in your skin, the crystalline proteins in the lenses of your eyes, and most dangerously, the delicate lining of your endothelium, the inner wallpaper of your blood vessels. The resulting inflammatory environment is a toxic soup of cytokines. Your body senses the sugar-coated proteins as foreign invaders and sends out an inflammatory response to clean them up. But you cannot clean up your own blood vessel walls while the sugar is still pouring in. This constant state of low-grade fire creates a chemical environment that prevents your vessels from dilating. Your microcirculation begins to fail. The tiny pipes that feed your nerves, the vasa nervorum, are the first to suffer. They are so small that even a slight thickening of the blood or a minor swelling of the vessel wall can cut off the oxygen supply entirely. This is nerve ischemia. It is the reason why you might feel that phantom buzzing in your toes or a strange numbness that comes and goes. The nerve isn't just tired, it is literally gasping for air because the sugar has blocked the delivery of its lifeblood. Remember, if you feel a crash at 2 p.m., the mistake actually happened at 8 a.m. If this cycle continues, we witness the structural and functional collapse. Over months and years, the chronic lack of perfusion leads to the death of nerve fibers. Your functional reserve, that battery of health we are all born with, begins to drain. Once a nerve fiber dies, the loss of function is often permanent. The structural integrity of your capillaries gives way, leading to microaneurysms and leakage. This is how the silent glycation of a sedentary morning eventually turns into the tragedy of lost vision, or the inability to feel the ground beneath your feet, leading to a fall that changes everything. The tragedy is that most seniors treat the symptom with more medication, but we are going to fix the morning timing. You see, your muscles are actually the biggest sugar-burning organ in your body, but only if you flip the switch. Inside your muscle cells, there is a specialized transport protein called GLUT4. Under normal circumstances, it waits for insulin to tell it to come to the surface and grab sugar. But there is a backdoor to this system. When a muscle contracts, it triggers the GLUT4 to move to the cell membrane regardless of whether insulin is present or not. You can bypass the deafness of your cells through simple mechanical movement, but timing is everything. If you wait until the afternoon, the sugar has already spent hours scarring your vessels. You must act while the glucose is at its peak in the bloodstream, turning your leg muscles into a literal vacuum for sugar. I've seen patients reverse decades of neglect just by changing what they do 15 minutes after breakfast. They stop the chain of decay before the inflammatory fire can spread. It isn't about how much you sweat, it's about when you move. If you stay seated after your morning meal, you are allowing that syrup to stagnate in your smallest vessels, accelerating the ischemia that leads to nerve death. However, if you understand the rhythm of your own internal clock, you can use the liver's morning glucose dump to your advantage, fueling a body that remains resilient and sharp well into your 80s and 90s. But as clear as the science is, nothing illustrates the stakes of this morning window better than the story of a man named Elias, who thought he was doing everything right until the day his legs simply stopped communicating with his brain. Elias was a man of meticulous habits, a retired structural engineer who approached his health with the same precision he once used to calculate load-bearing walls. He ate his oatmeal at 7, read his paper until 8, and took his medications with the clinical punctuality of a Swiss watch. To the outside observer, Elias was the picture of senior vitality, but inside his periphery, a structural failure was brewing. He began to notice that when he stood up after his morning reading, his feet felt like they were made of heavy, cold clay. He would stomp them on the carpet to wake them up, dismissing the sensation as a simple lack of circulation. He didn't realize that his quiet hour of reading was actually a period of intense cellular suffocation. By sitting motionless during the peak of his morning glucose surge, he was allowing his blood to become a caustic sludge. The sugar was binding to the delicate proteins of his myelin sheaths, the insulation of his nerves, effectively fraying the electrical wires of his legs. The body whispers before it screams, but Elias had been trained to value silence. One Tuesday morning, the whisper became a roar. As he stepped into his hallway, his right leg failed to register the texture of the floor. There was no pain that was the most terrifying part. There was only an absence, a void where a limb should be. He collapsed, not because he was weak, but because the biological data cable between his brain and his foot had been severed by a decade of post-breakfast stagnation. In the hospital, his glucose was within acceptable limits for his age, but his microcirculation told a darker story. His capillaries had become brittle pipes, unable to expand, leaving his nerves in a state of permanent oxygen debt. He was a victim of the retirement tragedy, realizing too late that his sedentary, peaceful mornings were actually the very thing dismantling his mobility. Then there was Martha, who suffered from the invisible sign in a different way. She woke up every day with a pounding headache and a dry, metallic taste in her mouth. Her fasting blood sugar was always high, despite her strict evening diet. She felt betrayed by her own liver. I explained to her that her body was overreacting to the dawn. Her liver was frantically dumping fuel into a system that had no way to burn it. She was trapped in a cycle of chemical stress, where her morning cortisol was driving her glucose into the danger zone before she even put her slippers on. She was living in a state of metabolic rust, where the very energy meant to sustain her was instead corroding her internal machinery. The solution I gave them both was not a new pill or a grueling gym regimen, but a fundamental realignment with their biological clocks. We call it the first 30 protocol. The first pillar is the priming phase. Before a single bite of food touches your tongue, you must address the hemiconcentration of the night. You must drink 16 ounces of room temperature water. This isn't just about thirst, it is about hydraulic pressure. By expanding your blood volume, you dilute the sugar that your liver dumped during the night, reducing the viscosity of the sludge and making it easier for your heart to push nutrients into those starving peripheral nerves. The second pillar is the fiber shield. If you choose to eat a morning meal, the order of consumption is a matter of life and death for your endothelium. You must start with soluble fiber or a bitter green. This creates a gelatinous matrix in your small intestine, a biological speed bump that prevents the rapid dumping of glucose into your portal vein. When you eat your carbohydrates, be they fruit or grain, they are absorbed slowly, preventing the massive insulin spike that leads to cellular deafness and inflammation. But the one habit that changes everything is the contraction window. Within 30 minutes of finishing your meal, you must engage your muscles. You do not need a treadmill. You need the soleus push-up or a 10-minute rhythmic walk. By rising from your chair and moving, you are activating the mechanical glucose transporters I mentioned earlier. You are essentially opening the floodgates. As your muscles contract, they pull that circulating sugar out of the bloodstream and into the mitochondria to be burned as fuel. This prevents the sugar from ever having the chance to attach to your nerve endings or your eye tissue. For Elias, this meant trading his post-breakfast newspaper for a 10-minute walk around his garden. For Martha, it meant performing seated calf raises while she had her morning tea. Within 3 weeks, the clay feeling in Elias's feet began to recede as the microcapillaries, no longer under the assault of high-pressure sugar, began to reperfuse the starving nerves. Martha's morning headaches vanished as her liver learned that it no longer needed to compensate for a stagnant system. They stopped spending their functional reserve and started reinvesting in it. However, many still ask me if these changes are enough once the damage has already been done, or if certain types of morning movement are safer than others when the heart is tired. In my decades of wearing the white coat, I have heard the same 3 questions echo through my consultation room, usually whispered by those who fear they have waited too long. The first is a question of permanence. Dr. Arthur, is the damage already done? Can these morning habits really fix nerves that have been silent for years? To this, I say, the body's capacity for repair is far greater than our medical textbooks often give it credit for, but it requires the right environment. While a completely severed nerve fiber is a profound loss, many of your nerves are not dead. They are simply hibernating in a state of chronic ischemia. By clearing the sugar fog from your microcirculation every morning, you are restoring the oxygen flow. Think of it like a wilted plant. Some leaves may be lost, but once you water the roots and clear the toxins from the soil, the core remains capable of new growth. The second concern often involves the how of the movement. Patients ask if they must walk outside in the cold or if a vibrating platform or a massage chair can do the work for them. I must be direct. There is no mechanical substitute for the internal contraction of your own muscle fibers. A massage moves the skin, a walk moves the soul and the metabolism. If your balance is poor or your joints ache, the soleus push-up, simply raising your heels while seated, is your clinical ally. It targets a muscle that is uniquely designed to burn glucose for long periods without fatigue. Do not let the pursuit of the perfect workout prevent you from the necessary movement. The third objection I hear is about timing. Can't I just go for a long swim in the evening to make up for a sedentary morning? This is the great fallacy of the retirement tragedy. You cannot undo 6 hours of glycation with an hour of exercise later in the day. By then, the sugar has already done its structural damage. The rust has already set in. You must catch the wave as it peaks. Moving in the evening is excellent for cardiovascular health, but moving 10 minutes after breakfast is the specific medicine for your blood sugar. Now, I must offer a final warning to those who think they can simply outwalk a truly dangerous clinical situation. While these habits are foundational, you must remain vigilant for the red flags. If you begin to feel shaky, dizzy, or break into a cold sweat during your morning movement, stop immediately. This may be hypoglycemia, a sign that your medication and your new habits are working so well they need to be adjusted by your physician. Never, under any circumstances, stop your prescribed insulin or metformin without a direct clinical consultation. And look at your feet. Every single night, look at them. If you see a redness that doesn't go away, or a sore that seems indifferent to time, that is not a task for a morning habit. That is a task for a specialist. We spend the first half of our lives sacrificing our health to gain our wealth, and then we spend the second half of our lives sacrificing our wealth to regain our health. I have seen millionaires who would trade every cent they own just to have one morning where their feet didn't tingle and their vision wasn't clouded by the shadows of retinopathy. Do not join their ranks. The first 30 protocol is your shield against the silent erosion of your vitality. Your health is a functional reserve, a battery that you are either charging or draining with every passing hour. This is education in health and does not replace a medical consultation. If you have diseases, use medications, are pregnant, or have concerning symptoms, seek a healthcare professional. The body whispers before it screams, and today, you have learned how to listen. The choice is yours. Will you remain in your chair, allowing the morning surge to slowly dismantle your future? Or will you stand up and reclaim the life you worked so hard to enjoy? Don't wait to lose your health to realize its value.